Comparison is the thief of joy, they say, and deep down I know this to be true. Yet, as I try to enjoy Deathless Tales of Old Rus, I can't help but constantly compare it to Slay the Spire, and question if I'd rather be spending my time with that instead. Am I being fair? Probably not. But these comparisons are bound to happen when you construct a game so similar, going as far as cribbing several elements from Slay the Spire beyond just the core gameplay mechanics. Still, I'm truly having fun with Deathless Tales of Old Rus. But even as I write these words, I'm unsure if this is a game I want to finish. Would I be better served returning to the tried and true classic? Or is there something unique and special about Deathless that warrants seeing it through to the end? Hopefully, as I produce this review, I'll be able to come to a conclusion, and you'll be able to decide if Deathless is worth your time and money. Deathless Tales of Old Rus, in addition to being a mouthful of a name, is a new indie roguelike deck builder from Russian developer 1C Game Studios. Despite entering an increasingly crowded and competitive market, Deathless manages to stand out through its storybook presentation. Heroes and enemies are beautifully illustrated and animated, with battles backdropped by stunning hand-drawn scenery. It also has a more direct narrative than most of its contemporaries, with each of the 4 playable heroes having their own journey that progresses as you complete story events during a run. The gameplay feels very familiar, more on that in a minute, but it's certainly wrapped in a much prettier bow than most other deck builders. Structurally, gameplay is very similar to that of Slay the Spire. Each hero has their own starting deck of 10 cards, containing a mixture of defensive skills and damage-dealing attacks to be used in turn-based combat against a variety of fantasy monsters. During each round of battle, you'll draw a hand of cards from your deck, see the enemy's intentions, and react by spending action points to play cards. Each victory will be rewarded in a variety of ways: new cards, relics providing passive buffs, healing, one-time consumables, etc. After a successful battle, you'll be presented with 3 options for the next encounter, with better rewards requiring victory over more difficult opponents. Sometimes these risks are necessary, as you'll need all of the firepower you can get to construct a deck and strategy capable of defeating the 3 bosses required for victory. If at any point the hero's health is reduced to 0, it's game over and you'll have to start from scratch. Again, this is nothing new. It's all straight out of the Slay the Spire playbook. Apart from visuals and story, Deathless does manage to shake things up with a few new mechanics. First, enemies are arranged in a line and their position matters greatly. For example, melee attackers will not be able to hit you unless they are first in line. Likewise, your hero's attacks will only damage the enemy at the front. This often makes it more difficult to take out priority targets, but it also gives you more defensive options. There are plenty of cards that lean into this mechanic, allowing you to move enemies around and manipulate their formation. Another notable mechanic occurs when an enemy's health is reduced to 0. Instead of being removed from the battlefield, this enemy enters the dying state. A dying enemy continues to occupy a space on the battlefield and has a new health bar. This often means taking them out twice, but thankfully, dying enemies do not attack and lose 1/4 of their health every turn. There are plenty of cards that build off this mechanic as well, providing a reward for vanquishing enemies or buffing the hero based on the number of dying enemies. One hero starts with a card allowing her to pull a dying opponent to her side of the battlefield, effectively creating a meat shield for herself. Both of these new mechanics are interesting, although not entirely transformative. They add a few novel wrinkles to this brand of deck builder combat, enough to give me new things to consider and create a handful of intriguing interactions unique to Deathless. However, for the most part, gameplay is incredibly similar to Slay the Spire, especially when encountering the several recreations of Slay the Spire classics, like the Snecko relic that randomizes card costs, and the flying bird enemies that take half damage until they've been hit 3 times. It's obvious that Slay the Spire was an inspiration, but some of these straight copies made Deathless feel more like a derivative than an homage. I don't want to be constantly comparing this to Slay the Spire. I'd much rather evaluate Deathless on its own merit, but when the gameplay similarities are so striking, it's impossible not to draw these comparisons. Unfortunately, Deathless does not quite execute its gameplay vision to the same level of Slay the Spire. Don't get me wrong, it's still very fun, but it lacks the crazy synergies and game-breaking strategies that make Slay the Spire so satisfying. Deathless is much more about making solid choices and incremental progress. It uses much lower numbers, as starting attacks deal 2 damage, and many enemies have hit points in the single digits. This gradually scales up, but not enough to create a major difference in my power level between the beginning and end of a run. Instead of working towards a specific build or cool strategy, it seemed as if I was just picking cards I expected to outperform the others due to a relic I'd acquire or some other factor. It still required sound decision making, but it lacked the excitement of seeing a grand plan come together with explosive results. Despite succeeding on several runs across my roughly 20 hours with Deathless, none of the strategies I used or builds I developed were particularly memorable. It was still enjoyable to play, just a little flat. This all makes gameplay feel like it's more about the journey than the outcome, something reinforced by its storybook setting. Where Deathless does stand out is its structure and presentation, easily its biggest selling point. From the book on the menu screen that opens when you start a new game, to the descriptions of each encounter, written as if it was the next paragraph in your hero's tale, everything about Deathless makes it feel as if you are reading a storybook featuring grand tales inspired by Slavic folklore. Each of the 4 heroes has their own hero's journey, a story that will play out over several runs, culminating in a special boss encounter. I didn't find these vignettes particularly special or compelling, but I enjoyed having some extra incentive to pull me through runs beyond simply chasing victory. It also gave me extra incentive to try all 4 heroes, as completing each hero's journey is required to see the true ending of the tale. There is good variety across these characters. Varvara excels at manipulating enemy positions on the battlefield. Vasila is aided by handmaids with more powerful effects the more you charge them. My favorite, Alyosha, has Spellbane cards that scale based on how many action points have been spent. And last is Dobrynya, a shield-bearing warrior that is a master in defensive combat. I found Dobrynya miserable to play, as his style is far too slow and passive for my taste, but I genuinely enjoyed playing as the other 3 heroes. I appreciate the diversity of playstyles, and found it fun switching back and forth between the different heroes, keeping each run fresh. As for whether or not I will finish Deathless, I think the answer is yes. Each hero has a final boss, analogous to the heart in Slay the Spire, that will only appear at the end of a run if you've completed the previous hero's journey story events. I'd like to, at the very least, complete this for each hero and see how the story concludes. There is an escalating difficulty system as well, which provides even more replayability once the credits have rolled, although I expect to drop this well before reaching Deathless's greatest challenges. Deathless, Tales of Old Rus is a solid iteration of the Slay the Spire formula. It features some of the best visuals and animations in the deck builder genre. While gameplay sticks a little too close to the games that inspired it, it does feature a few new mechanics to make it feel just original enough to be worth playing. There are so many other fantastic roguelike deck builders out there that it's difficult for me to outright recommend Deathless, but if you are looking for more narrative in a genre usually void of it, Deathless is a great option with enough content and incentive to keep playing and make it worth its price. Thank you for watching. I'm a partnered creator with Minimap, who is kind enough to provide me with the code for this review. Minimap is the ultimate gaming app. It allows you to track all of your games and achievements in one place thanks to its Game Sync feature that works with PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and Steam. You can also share updates and reviews with a small but passionate and growing community. I'm a data nerd, so I love everything Minimap allows me to track, like what systems I own a game on and total hours played. And I've discovered so many great games through reading community posts and reviews. This isn't a paid advertisement, I just really like the Minimap app and community and want to see it grow. So if you are interested, check out the link in the description. And to see more of my game reviews, please subscribe. Okay, thank you, bye!